So yesterday I was out running some errands with my newfound friend, Dr. Jamie Turndorf, who's with us today. Dr. Love, please stand. And we were doing some shopping at some of the local stores, and I was at the produce section. I know all of you know I'm a vegetarian, but I was getting meat for my mother. And so anyway, the guy that's waiting on me, I said, "How are you doing?" And the name tags are very visible. And I said, "How you doing, Mark?" He said, "Well, I'd be doing really well if I was on the other side of the counter like you are." I can't believe I'm here, and I have to be here till 5 o'clock. I can't wait for 5 o'clock to come. Now it's probably 11. And I said, it's all relative, really. Anyway, so then I go to checkout, and lo and behold, another guy. Guess what his name is? You might even ask me. Thank you for asking. His name was Mark also. They must hire Marks there or something. I don't know. If it had been Hark, I would have been scared. Anyway, so there's Mark, another Mark. And I go, "Mark, how are you?" He said, "I am awesome. I am awesome." Can every night be holy night? Absolutely. Here's two people, the same name, about the same age group. One's made a decision about life that the other has made in a different direction. Everything is part of what we said on Christmas Eve, is that it is written for our soul path of what we are to do. But often our personality wants to get in the way of that. Our personality wants us to think about that if we're not famous, it's not enough, or, if it's not a title or a big business card or whatever. Our personality wants to say we should have had 5 kids and not 2, or ought to have kids when we didn't have any, or give somebody our kids that we have, or, whatever our personalities are doing and saying. Our personality is rethinking our lives and making reference to times we've wasted, regrets, and that's all personality. If one stops in the essence of one being in that space of, "Oh, holy night, the stars are brightly shining," if you feel that truly within every part of your being, and you really mean that song when you hear it, then you know that you're right where you're supposed to be. And when you come from, as a soul, of serving, of healing, of loving, of holy, then all is phenomenal. And you do live in that realm of what is possible. Wayne Muller, who will be with us in May, Wayne Muller wrote the book, The Sabbath. He wrote the book, How Then Shall We Live, Knowing That We Will Die. He's just a beautiful man. And he said that he is fascinated by how we get in our own way of seeing what God wants to gift us. And so he talks about, "Thy will be done. Thy will be done. Hallowed be all of you by name, Mark, John, Tom, Mary, Alice, Sue, whatever one's name. Hallowed be our name." The fact that we are birthed of our Creator, we are in that holy space, right? And so he said that after that we say, "Thy will be done." Say that with me. Thy will be done. But more importantly, we want to say, "Thy will be done through me." Thy will be done through me. Because we have to let it. We have to let it. Tension, control, all of our better ideas that we have that keep hovering over us like a little helicopter. That's the personality. And so in that space, "Thy will be done" means that we practice one of the hardest words on the planet, and that's the word surrender. Practice surrender, not speak surrender, but to really practice that "Thy will be done." When we live from that realm, it's like having reader glasses, pretty glasses, because we're able to greet life from a whole different direction. We're not waiting on 5 o'clock. We're not waiting on, I'm doing everything but what I want to be doing, but when I get over here, I'm going to be different. No, because you won't ever be over here, because until you're different, over here won't ever come. Just saying. Yes, so in that connection, that's that spot. And we want to learn when we say thy will be done, what we're really saying is we are willing to allow the mystery of the unknown to reveal itself to us, to allow the Christ consciousness, to allow the angels, the guides, the people we meet on the subway, on the bus, under Uber, wherever, whatever the new things are that we have. That's that space of listening and being attentive with our true divine reader glasses. Wow. Letting go of what we have had in the past, those old clothing, those old limitations, those old false stories, so the new can reveal itself. There's a map in a British museum. It's located in London, actually. It's an old maritime map, and there are notes that have been made on this map from 1525. This was back before, of course, Americas were just in the emerging, being born. And so when the early explorers came through there, the Indians would create stories because they didn't want them coming. And so they said, giants, scorpions, beware of giants. These are the monsters. Be thee monsters, be thee feared things to be afraid of. And it wasn't until Sir John Franklin went through and he marked through on the map on every one of those scary things, those mystical things that they were making up because they didn't want their land taken over. He wrote, be thee God, be thee God, be thee God. That's what is more of an invitation. You see, when we are adventurous spirits, we get excited about what we don't know yet. That's that space between the no longer and the not yet, and being comfortable to be in that. Let's have a scripture that talks about that in Timothy. Let's read it together. Here is a trustworthy saying, if we died with him, we will also live with him. If we endure, we will also reign with him. If we disown him, he will disown. Thank you. If we are faithless, he will remain faithful, for he cannot disown himself. I love that part of how we use a law that is always working. If we disown our Creator in our eyes disowns us because we're not able to see the potentiality of what is being offered to us. Yes? And if we are faithless, we can be on our own and pretend that we're actually in charge. Have any of you actually pretended that you were in charge? Yeah, we have those moments. But our Creator remains faithful, because the Creator cannot become aware that it can disown what it does so organically and so naturally for all of us. What is written for you? What does that look like? You know, life, you live long enough to understand that life is not necessarily finding the right answers, but life is learning how to ask the right questions. For example, here's one that many of you recognize. How many of you have had surgery and wished that you had asked a few more questions? Why didn't I think to ask that, right? Right? There's so many things in life that if you measure life by your own values, by your own journey, you want to learn to ask the right questions, because often people are going to only give you their level of what they know. And what may be important to you may not be important to them. Are you following me? Is this working for you? Are we all still here? Hold up your hand if you're still with me. Okay, good. I was just just never can check too often. Okay, there we are. And so in that space, it reminds me of back when I was a teenager, my aunt and uncle, they actually still do. They have a saltwater lake house outside of Beaufort and Savannah on the inlet there. And one of my friends that I knew from softball, she loved to go sailing, she said. Oh, and she just went on and on about it, how she had this big old sailboat, and she was going to come, and she was going to drive it, 3.5 hours, and we were just going to have all these great times on the sailboat. Okay, so I tell my dad, I said, I'm sure she's really good at it because she talks about it all the time. He said, well, you sure she knows? Oh, yeah, well, yeah, she talks about it. She's got to. So we're out there, out in the middle of the ocean, and we're just going further and further out in the ocean. And so I said to her, I said, so how often do you do this? She said, I've never done this before. So I'm thinking, well, I'm going to be living on an island now, serving in some kind of holy ways, selling baskets for my life, because I don't think we're going to be able to get back. I mean, we're just going further and further away. And my father was just flipping out. Thank heavens he was, and that he was following his own innate ability. And so it was a holiday weekend, and he finally found a family that the guy had a powerboat, and he was able to go and find us and bring us back. Can you imagine? I mean, I wouldn't even be here with you today. I would be, making baskets or prayer flags or something. So, but I didn't ask the right questions before I was willing to give my whole life to that experience. People don't do that even in marriage. They don't do that when they come together. They don't ask enough questions in their spiritual community. They don't ask enough questions about what does it mean to be involved and participate, or what does it really mean to spiritually grow. People will dedicate their whole lives to one person's opinion, not ever really taking the time to find out if it even resonates or not. And when we don't get the details, when we don't get that information that's the most important part of the information, we do drift away. We drift away from our own spiritual well-being, our own spiritual awareness and connection. Next week is, in my mind, one of my most favorite times of our Burning Bowl service. Yes, and next week we will have the opportunity, and for the first time ever, I decided to talk about it this week because I want to give you the opportunity to really be prepared. That when you come in next week, think about, like it said in Colossians, letting go of the old nature, the stories, the things you've said to yourself, being willing to truly let those go. It's like when you donate clothes to Encore, right? I mean, you don't just ponder over it and fret over it and 3 weeks go back and tell them you want those clothes back, right? Well, if you do, they probably say something really like namaste to you. But anyway, I mean, you don't do that. You really let them go. And it's the same way in our spiritual, our inward path, is that decide what you're going to let go. That come this Sunday, you're going to watch it burn, the chaplains are going to pray over it, and it's going to be gone. And only you will be the one that can pick it up again. Only you can decide whether you're going to be the awesome Mark or the Mark that's waiting on 5 o'clock. Right? And then what are you going to request? What are you going to envision in that space of that connection for yourself? What is it that you see pulling your soul into your becoming? And I would urge you to take this time to make a vision board for yourself. I have vision boards since I was 19. I've kept all of them. And this is from like 12 years ago, that I would have an article in the Unity magazine, that happened, that I would have this foundation, I do, and When Did You Die? This book wasn't even started then. All come true, just like that. This is something glued on a board many, many years ago. All these different things that have happened, connections and spaces and anything from love to life, and not just material things, but joy and vacation. And I still haven't knelt into the Dalai Lama, but I have still a great sense that could happen. And just things. I believe so much in it that this one I even got laminated. But I would say about 60% of the things on here, which at the time did not seem possible, have all came into manifestation. Putting a vision. Thank you. I say that not to impress you, but to impress upon you that what you put in, it's like Stephen Covey says that no one would build a house and have the carpenter and the general contractor and everybody show up and the plumber, and they go, what do you want? And you just say, well, just whatever you come up with. Just whatever happens, it doesn't really matter, just whatever you come up with. Oddly enough, that's how so many people live their lives, without any essence of the vision. So we have a sense about where our soul wants to go. It's a matter of fact, the way someone said it, you want to learn how to be the highest involved in your life. You want to be so involved in your life to the highest degree that you could imagine, but at the same time, you want to be the least attached. Wow. Let me say that again. You want to be the highest involved in your life. You want to give all the energy to being involved and excited about your life. Because if you're not excited about your life's not excited about you. It's looking for somebody else, right? And at the same time, you want to be detached into thy will be done. Because could be something even better, right? At the level of the vibration that you're at now, that who knows what that could be. So that's that particular energy in that space. I read the other day, in order to change, you must be willing to unpack your bags. And I love that. I love that. And I would urge you to unpack your bags here. Really. We have so many classes and programs and people that if you are willing, and God calls you to do that, you can literally transform totally your life. Absolutely. I can speak that because it has for me. So in that space, unpack your bags. Going into every year, I like to remember the 2 serenity prayers. They're both very important. The first one, most of us know. I'm going to ask you to say it with me. God grant me the serenity, the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And the other one I say so frequently that I kind of just think of that naturally, so I had to really stop and think. But this is how it goes. God grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the one I can, and the wisdom to know that is me. I think we should say that one out loud. God grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the one I can, and the wisdom to know that's me. That's me. And I've been working with practicing that all week with my mom being here and her allowing me to be me and me allowing her to be her. It's a practice. And so she was saying to me, as she was watching us with our herd of 6 furry creatures, she was saying to me, well, actually she says y'all, because she's from South Carolina. Y'all put more energy into those animals than I did my own children. I thought, I'm going to make a note of that. That's a whole different conversation. We're going to take care of that later. But she said, really, you do so much for these animals. And here's what I told her. This was my answer. And I liked it so much, I put my name on it. Love does not make the distinction to where you give. It's how you give it. You like that? Let's say it together. Love does not make the distinction to where you give it. It's how you give it. That's what love is. It's that distinction of love that limits us. It's that controlling love which keeps us from being free. It's that need to know kind of love that makes us label and measure one experience more importantly than the other. The guy at the produce stand could have the greatest ministry in all the world if he were willing to serve in a holy, holy way and love in a holy, holy way. Who knows who can reach who or what by allowing ourselves and how we give in love. I'm going to close with Michael Beckwith's wisdom on people talk about the world, how the world is, what's going on in the world, what to do about the world. But he said, never confuse the two. There's the planet. The planet is what is vibrant, what is God, what is universal. The water, which has more water on Mother Earth, as much water as we have in our bodies, that level of percentage compared to our planet, and the mountains and the streams and all the creatures that coexist and everything. That's our planet. Our planet is doing what it's doing. The world is how each of us as individuals speak about our world, how we judge our world, how we view our world, how we project onto our world, whatever definition we hold of our world. And more importantly, most people hold our world as a very false story of just a little bit of information, just a little bit of subtitle in the news, just a little bit, not really the whole story, but just enough to get you going. Move into this new year with a different idea of understanding that there is the planet, which is in divine order, fully expressing with the gift of our Creator, and there's a world that we language according to what we tell ourselves. God bless you, and thank you for coming today, and thank you for being here. Appreciate you so much. Thank you.